Hello everybody, good to see you all again. I'm glad to be back doing this tea time. I've actually been kind of craving this for a while because as you know on Sunday I was going to do a tea time, but then we ended up just working on the model railroad. So, but yeah, now I'm here for tea. Alright, let's get to the channel. Check the comments. Alright, so, hello Moonzer. Moonzer asked the question, hey Alex, did the RMS Queen Elizabeth have identical areas or rooms identical to RMS Queen Mary? I don't know every single room that existed on the RMS Queen Elizabeth, but of the ones that I have seen, I haven't seen any that are perfectly identical. There are some that are the same shape, the same size, the same height, all that kind of stuff. Some of them have even the same style, but they are still very different on RMS Queen Elizabeth. So, but hello, Brocky, hello, Ozzy. There's no snow yet, Ozzy, at least not where I am. There's snow around us where there's high hills and mountains, but not in the low areas like where I am. Hello, Kevin. Hey, Steve. Let's see. Jacob's here. The Ocean Channel's here. Hello. Hello, Tyler. Kevin says, what's on the menu today? Today we have the same stuff. We have the cucumber sandwiches. We have the homemade Scottish shortbread and the McVitie's. But what I wanted to ask everybody is to help me decide something, because I could not for the life of me decide which tea I wanted to have today. So we have 3 different options here, and I want you to help me choose. English breakfast tea, Irish breakfast tea, or Lady Grey tea. So I would normally always go for Earl Grey, but I can't have Earl Grey all the time, or that's all I'd ever drink. So, yeah, so help me choose which one of these. I could not for the life of me decide. So, yeah, so let me go ahead and... I don't think this is keeping up with the live chat. There we go. Chris, hello, Chris. Hey, Pookie, how's it going? Hello, Doc. Healthy. Let's see. Jacob says layout is looking great as always. Also, they are... Oh, the buildings are awesome. Thank you so much. Tyler says English breakfast. Pookie says Lady Grey. Let's see. That's 2 for Lady Grey. But one person says Irish. Oh, jeez. It's so mixed. Help me decide, you guys. English breakfast tea, Irish breakfast tea, or Lady Grey. Let me know. I have not decided yet. So far we have 2 voting for Lady Grey and 1 for each of the others. That's 2 for Irish. So 2 for Lady Grey, 2 for Irish. That is a tie. That's 3 for Lady Grey. That's 3 for Irish. So we're still tying Lady Grey and Irish. Let's see. Okay, that's 4 Irish. 4 Lady Grey. 5 Irish, 5 Lady Grey. Oh my gosh. Fallon says, Alex, what engines did Queen Mary have? She had 4 sets of engines. The engines were steam turbine engines. They are single reduction geared, which means that basically the power of the engine is reduced. Well, not power, but I should say the speed of the engine is reduced by half in order to exert more power onto the propeller shafts. So let's see here. Well, actually, that's not even it either. It's single reduction just means that it was reduced 1 time, but that doesn't necessarily mean it was reduced by half. Yeah, it wasn't reduced by half. It was just reduced 1 time, because there's a big gear, and then the 4 smaller gears are the other engines. So yeah. Okay, everybody's Lady Grey, Irish, Lady Grey. Okay, well, I'm going to have to go with Irish. Even though there's a tie, but I think the tiebreaker will be the fact that the Lady Grey is already opened. I've already had a lot of it. This is a brand new Irish breakfast tea, and I haven't drank Irish breakfast tea in a while because I was waiting to get a new tin of it because the old tin started to taste old. So, all right. That's pretty cool, Moonzer. The Ocean Channel says, do you think after Queen Mary 2 is scrapped, there will be another ocean liner? That is really hard to say. You know, I think there's a good chance there might be, only because the voyages on Queen Mary 2 are still extremely popular. So, you know, they book out far in advance. So that might be a good telltale sign that there might be one more after Queen Mary 2. But Queen Mary 2 still has another, you know, 12 to possibly 20 years left in her. So, because a lot of cruise ships stop being used around 30 years old. Queen Mary 2 is an ocean liner, but even still, you never know. You know, they might decide that she's done after 30 years of service. So I would say another 12 years to maybe 20, or 12 to maybe 20 years left on Queen Mary 2. So it all depends on what's happening, you know, 20 years from now. So, all right. Let's go ahead and heat up the water. I'm going to scoop out some of the Irish breakfast tea and then have that. Next time we'll have Lady Grey. Okay, so Jacob, no, I didn't hear about that. I will admit I've never heard of the cat, but that's really sad, you know. It's always sad to lose a pet. Dreamrock says, hi Alex, I've been a maritime historian since 2022. My favorite ship is the HMHS Britannic and SS Edmund Fitzgerald, and I like trains, cars, and aviation. Nice. Lori Carlson says E.P. Ripley is back at Disneyland on Monday, January 9th. Yeah, that's what some people are saying. There's been some posts online. I'm one of those people that says I'll believe it when I actually see it running on the railroad, because I have seen videos and the photos posted online of the locomotive sitting in the roundhouse. But those could be old pictures. I mean, there's been lots of false reports over the past 5 or 6 years, the engine has not been running. So, yeah, I'll have to wait to see it running to believe that it's there and running. So, yeah. Okay, let's see. Chris says, hey Alex, I have a video idea for your YouTube channel. It's your top 10 train movies. I don't have any. So I don't have any train movies that I'm into at all. So there would probably be only one, and that would be The General. But even then, I only watched it once. So yeah, I'm not into train movies. Pookie says, I think they will make another ocean liner, and I can bet her name will be Queen Elizabeth. Maybe. The Queen Elizabeth cruise ship will still be around by then. So they usually don't name two ships at the exact same time, Queen Elizabeth. They would have to retire one of them. But yeah. Wouldn't it be weird if the next one was Queen Camilla? Oh, that'd be strange. Pablo says, hello Alex, what is your favorite room / salon on the Queen Mary? Greetings from Chile. Greetings, Pablo. My favorite room or salon on Queen Mary would have to be one that no longer exists, and it is called the Second Class Overflow Lounge. It was located on A deck, so one deck below the Second Class Main Lounge. So the Second Class Overflow Lounge I thought was really beautiful. I only wish I could have seen a color photo of it. But yeah, a really nice space. And I suppose my second favorite would be the First Class Main Lounge, if it were fully furnished with all the furniture it used to have. That furniture really made the First Class Main Lounge. Without it, it's just not the same. Fallon says, Alex, what tea of the day? Well, we had a lot of votes. It was a tie between Irish breakfast tea and Lady Grey. And I broke the tie by saying that it's a brand new tin of Irish breakfast tea. And I haven't had Irish breakfast tea in a long time because I've been waiting to get a new tin of it. So I broke the tie that way. But yeah, it was a tie between Irish breakfast tea and Lady Grey. Let's see. Blue Band says Alex is starting up the F-18 afterburners again. I don't know what that means. Alright, let's go ahead and empty out half of this. So I know a lot of people in the western United States have been really affected by the huge amount of rain we've been getting from the, so far, 3 atmospheric rivers that have crossed our paths. The area of Oregon that I'm in already sees a lot of rain throughout the year anyway. You know, summers are drier, of course, but we already see enough rain that it's not affecting us as bad up here where I am. But there are areas of Oregon that that are dry and are being affected by it. Because I know a lot of people have been wondering, Alex, do you have a lot of flooding in your area? Is there a lot of catastrophe, just like there is in Southern California and all that? And the answer is no, not really. Where I live, there's a lot of rain and the river levels are high. But aside from that, it just feels like ordinary rain to us because it rains a lot here already. The ground isn't as dry, or wasn't as dry, as plenty of other areas in the western U.S. So, yeah, we haven't had it nearly as, terrible as other areas. My friend Steve sent me a video today of an area he used to live. And it was literally his neighborhood he used to live in, and you could see his old home in the neighborhood, and the whole neighborhood was buried with like a foot of mud, because I guess one of the nearby drainage dikes had been overwhelmed, and so it just flooded the whole neighborhood with mud. So he was like, hey, we're kind of glad we don't live there anymore, or else our house would have been, totally just affected by it. I don't know about destroyed, but it would have been affected by it. So, yeah. Let's see. Alright. Taylor says the track is really coming along. Great, keep up the great work. Thank you so much. Steve's like, oh god, not Queen Camilla. Jacob says, if you had the chance, would you want to visit the narrow gauge railroads in the UK? Well, I'm still saving up for my trip to the UK aboard the Queen Mary 2. Which I'm hoping that maybe I'll have enough money by fall to actually start booking the trip. But yeah, the whole plan when I visit the UK is I have an actual schedule of places and things I want to see when we get to the UK, and a lot of those include, we're gonna try to see some narrow gauge railroads and other heritage railroads that are there when we get there, but. We had to plan it out very carefully because we can't rent a car and just drive anywhere. We can only go where public transit takes us and where it's fast and easy to get to. So there's a few places, there's a heritage railroad in the city of Bristol, or just outside the city of Bristol, I should say. And that's one we definitely plan to see. If we do make it to Liverpool, there's another heritage railroad near there that we want to see. I don't know if we'll make it to Liverpool, though. It really depends on how much time we have, and we have a tight schedule of things that we'll need to keep to try to see as much as we can. So, yeah. Chris says, hey, Alex, I did a calculation. It takes 66 feet of HO scale track to make a mile of real track. That makes sense, yeah. Taylor says, not including the safety features, do you prefer the Olympic pre- or post-Titanic sinking? I suppose I prefer it pre-Titanic sinking. I think that's when Olympic looked her best. But I think after Titanic sinking, there were a lot of things that changed, especially around the 1920s and 1930s. So yeah, I would say pre-Titanic sinking. I prefer Olympic then. Doc says, Alex, one of my patients took a transatlantic cruise and described it as much more formal than most cruises. Is the one you're taking more formal? It's lovely to dress up, and they went to shows and lectures. Yeah, it would definitely be very formal, because we would be going on the Queen Mary 2. And the Queen Mary 2 is literally the last remaining ocean liner in service. All other ships that cross the ocean on transatlantic cruises are cruise ships, built specifically for cruises. But yeah, so we decided we wanted to do Queen Mary 2 because it's the last remaining ocean liner, and ocean liners are, what we're big fans of and stuff like that. So, but it would definitely be pretty formal, with certain nights at the restaurants being much more formal. So yeah. So I wanted to let you guys know that this Saturday at 1 p.m. Pacific time, I will be a guest on Steve Oblonsky's channel. That will be Blue Ribbon Productions. He's in the chat right now. And we're going to be doing a show basically comparing the Queen Mary to the SS Poseidon from the Poseidon Adventure. And so he's working diligently to put together all the information and stuff. But yeah, so it'll be on his channel. The link to that live stream is in the description below. So you can actually click that link and then click notify me. So that way you get notified when the live stream happens. Again, that's this Saturday, 1 p.m. Pacific time. And yeah, so we'll be comparing the Queen Mary to the Poseidon Adventure, or to the SS Poseidon from the Poseidon Adventure. So yeah, it'll be really neat. So join us for that. I'll remind you guys again right before the live stream is done. This live stream is done. Let's see here. Ocean Channel says, will you see the Nomadic? Yeah, one of our biggest goals is to try to get to Belfast so we can see the Nomadic, we can see the Titanic Museum, see the HMS Caroline, yeah, and then the old. I want to try to stay in the Titanic Hotel, which is the old offices of Harland and Wolff. Is it Harland and Wolff? No, old offices of. Yeah, it is Harland and Wolff. But yeah, so that's what we want to do. We're going to definitely try to keep that on our list, depending on how much time we have. Because depending on what voyages we take will depend on how much time we have in the UK. And I want to try to get the maximum amount of time in the UK I can. But also part of the trip is that my friend really wants to go to Paris and to Disneyland Paris because his channel focuses on stuff like Disney parks. So he will need to be able to go to Disneyland Paris. So that's going to be part of our trip. So with any luck, we can save up for that. If anybody wants to help donate to that by any chance, there's also a link in the description below to that as well. It's a GoFundMe that I have, and then you can do that. Let's see. Titanic Gaming says, haven't been here in a while. Well, glad you're back. There we go. Fill that back up. Okay. So now let's go ahead and drop the tea in. $424, so 428. Yeah. Okay. Dreamrock says, do you plan on doing a review on the Titanic 2 movie? No, I never plan to ever see the Titanic 2 movie. I'm one of those people who, I do like to watch movies, but not just any movies. I'm extremely picky what movies I watch. I feel that when I watch a movie, it has to be like the best movie. Because I don't like wasting my time watching something that everybody knows is kind of like a B movie. So yeah, Titanic 2 is certainly not one I will ever see in my lifetime. Let's see here. Delta says, will your trip aboard Queen Mary 2 dock at Southampton? Yes, it will have to, because we can't take one to, like, you know, to Germany or anything like that. It would be too far, too expensive. So yeah, it'll dock at Southampton. Ocean Channel, that's awesome. Glad you were able to dispute that. NCC says, currently planning my own UK itinerary this summer. A whole list of museums. Totally forgot to look at heritage railways. Doc says, okay, UK-wise, what are you doing Harry Pottery? I don't think we'll be doing anything Harry Potter. I did talk to my friend about going to there's a studio near London that still has all the sets from Harry Potter, and that is something I want to see, but it's extremely busy. And it really depends. I don't know if we have time for it. I really don't know, because this UK trip, despite what some people think, is not exactly a vacation. I'm going there for the channel. The idea is that I'm going to be filming a lot of historic places, like literally spending every hour of the waking day filming historic places, so that way when I come back to the US, I have a lot of new content to give to the channel. And so there really won't be time for much like fun time and stuff like that. I think like literally the only thing would be Disneyland Paris, but even then my friend's going to be filming the whole time. He's got like a specific list of things he has to get to. So there are things that it won't necessarily be a vacation. It is very much going to be like, okay, we have to meet this list, this quota, this schedule, and stuff like that. And so it's really more like a business trip in that way, because that's what I do on my channel, is the history of stuff, and then he does the Disney stuff. So yeah. So that's why I think a lot of people are curious. I've had people that are like, oh, well, if you're going to go to the UK, you got to relax. And I'm like, it's not a vacation. I won't be able to relax. It's going to be busy. We're going to going one place to another. So it'll definitely be a lot like that. I think the only times we will relax, though, is we did agree that everywhere in the UK that we go, every region, we want to go to a fish and chip shop there, because we heard that they kind of vary a little bit depending on what region of the UK you're in, especially depending on the country you're in. So yeah, we want to try a fish and chip shop from almost every area we go. And the fish and chips on the ship, Queen Mary 2, we heard are very good as well. So I'm looking forward to it, because I have never had any good fish and chips here in the US. They're usually just Americanized fish and chips, and sometimes you just don't get what you pay for. You think you're paying all this money and you're going to get something really good, and then it's not. Yeah. Steve says, Alex, you did recently see the 2007 film Poseidon. Yeah, I did. I saw the recent Poseidon, and I also saw the original Poseidon film in 1972. Made in 1970. I didn't travel back in time. If I did travel back in time to 1972, I wouldn't have seen the Poseidon. I would have gone to Disneyland to see what that looks like in 1972. Eric says, you must have cringed when the Admiral pushed forward the idea of the Queen Mary being haunted. The Admiral? I don't know who that would be. Eric also said earlier, thanks for the info about tempering or slowly warming up bone wear. Very important. Yes, it really is, because I've seen so many people who own this stuff and want to use it. Actually, it's timing for the tea. I've seen so many people... Ooh, that's really hot. What was I saying? I'll put this over here. I've seen so many people who own this exact same Cunard china, and they've cracked it because they don't properly pre-warm it. And, I was even talking to one guy who was so frustrated. He was selling all this stuff of his, and he was like, I just don't get it. How could anybody drink out of this stuff if it just cracks immediately when you pour boiling water in it? And I'm like, because it's bone china. You have to pre-warm it first, or else it will crack, But that's why it's so expensive, is because it's delicate stuff. It's not the NASA engineered stuff that we drink coffee out of today, So, yeah, so I thought it was really important that in every one of my tea time live streams, I include instructions for how to take care of the boneware, especially how to wash them, too. Because so many people are used to using the abrasive side of their sponges when they wash dishes, and you don't want to do that with the china because you'll eventually wash off all the glaze and scrub off all the decoration on it. So that's something that people, they would probably know, but they just don't think about it when they're washing dishes. So, okay, let's pour this out and pour myself a cup of tea. Yeah, this is going to be really hot. I can already tell. All right. Dreamrock says, unfortunately, last year I watched Titanic 2 with my dad, and it made our eyes bleed. That's how bad it was. It was so bad that I can't even look at a photo of it. Yeah, you know, I kind of knew it would be like that. You know, I don't know. I'm a really busy person, you know, both, you know, with what I do on YouTube and just with my personal life. I'm a busy person. And so I have very little time to watch movies to begin with. When I do have time to watch movies, I want to see something good. I want to see something where I finish watching it, I'm like, oh, I want to see that again. You know, that's the kind of movies I want to watch. And so I no longer will watch a movie if I have any hint that I think it will be a bad movie. So there's a lot of movies that some people will say, oh, this is really good, and I haven't seen it because I'm pretty sure that there's something about it I won't like, you know. So that's just how I am, I guess. Doc says, Alex, anytime I've been to Europe, it was not relaxing. I wanted to see everything because I never know when I'll go back, and you have the right idea. That's the same philosophy I have as well. Because, I mean, you know, I've been talking, you guys know, I've been talking about this UK trip for a long time. It's because I don't normally earn the money to, like, go to Europe. That is a huge expense. And so I don't know when I'll ever be able to go back. You know, who knows? Maybe all the videos I make from the UK trip, maybe they won't pan out. I mean, I don't want to say that. I hope they are very good, successful videos, but they might not pan out. Some people, it might only be seen by a small fraction of people, and so it might not earn me the money I need to save up for another trip later, which is kind of what I'm kind of hoping. I'm hoping the videos will do very good. That way I can save up for a second trip in the future. But, you know, maybe the second trip will be more relaxing. Maybe I'll be able to enjoy myself a bit more. But, you know, for my first and possibly only trip to the UK and to Europe, I do want to get in as much stuff as I can, because I just never know. But yeah, one of the things on my list, like, definitely I'll be spending several days in London if I get to go. And one of the things I really want to see is the boiler and machine room of the London Tower Bridge. That sounds really interesting to me. I'm a huge steam nerd, so yeah, all that stuff. Eric says the guy in uniform at the tour. Oh, you're talking about Commodore Everett Horde. Yeah, well, I mean, he's part of the organization, and the organization wants to market the haunted aspect of the ship. You know, it's, you know, it's like when I was at Disney, and they would be like, oh, be sure to promote this, and I'm like, I don't want to promote that to people. I wouldn't use that myself, you know. But it's one of those things where you're told what to do. It's your job, you know. You work for a place, so, you know, I don't blame any of the employees of the Queen Mary Hotel for that, you know. Like, I know there was a ghost hunting show. I saw it like 2 years ago, so I don't remember it that well. But there was a ghost hunting show, and they were talking to some of the employees, like housekeepers and janitors and stuff, and they were like, "Oh, have you seen ghost stuff?" And and each of them had a story, and I thought that's really weird because when you talk to most people who work on the Queen Mary, not most people have a story. It's really only a small number of people who have one. And so I was kind of like, either they pre-selected who they were going to talk to, because it looked like they just walked up to random people, but either they pre-selected who they were going to talk to, or the company who was Evolution Hospitality was like, hey, you got to tell a ghost story because we're marketing this as a ghost ship, so I think that's kind of what's going on. So I chalk it up to just, you're an employee and the employer tells you what to do, what to say, I know it's like that for... Ooh, wow. That is very different from the first time I ever had English or Irish breakfast tea. I love how it, stopped me in my tracks. I was like, ooh. Oh, that is nice. Yeah, I'm so glad because I had a previous tin of Irish breakfast tea, and I stopped drinking it because it was starting to taste old. It didn't taste good when I was drinking it. And I thought, is that just the tea, or is it because it's actually getting old? So I decided to buy a new tin of it, and yeah, this is definitely a lot better. But I have a feeling that the tea itself gets old long before the other teas do, because the Earl Grey will still taste good months later, so sorry, that was a little off the beaten path of what I was trying to say. Oh yeah, when you go to the Winchester Mystery House, I've heard that the actual historians that work there, they know that the story that they are told to tell is not the true story of how it was created or why it was created. But they're told, that we're marketing this as a haunted place. You have to tell this specific story. And they're kind of like, that's not the full truth. And it's not so about supernatural stuff. But they have to because they work there, Yeah, Titanic 666 looked like trash. When I saw a preview of it, and I was like, oh god, that is definitely not a movie I'm going to watch. Mike Fiver says, good luck with the trip. Thanks, Mike. Yeah, I hope I'm able to save up for it, but, I don't know if any of you guys noticed on the train layout, there's a different train running today. I don't think you guys have seen it yet. It's about to come around the bend right now. It's a log train. And those are actual Pacific Northwest logs. The log train came with resin logs. But they don't look very convincing. They look like those plastic wine corks that you sometimes see in wine bottles. So I went out, found some dead branches that had fallen off trees, and I literally cut them into logs. And so, yeah, those are some actual Pacific Northwest logs on the log train. Dream Rock, do you plan to do a review on Titanic 666 Zombie Movie? Definitely not. If I thought Titanic 2 was bad enough that I'm not going to watch it, I'm certainly not watching Titanic 666. Mateo, how's it going? Let's see. Alright, let's have one of these cucumber sandwiches. I like to cut up little tea sandwiches, just like they probably would have had on the Queen Mary. Well, they most certainly would have had tea sandwiches on the Queen Mary when they did afternoon tea. Wow, we've already been on this live stream for 40 minutes? I didn't even realize that. Yeah, I have to agree with Steve. The 1972 Poseidon movie is certainly better than the 2006 Poseidon movie. By far. I just really enjoyed it. And the actual 1972 Poseidon movie has some areas that were actually filmed on the Queen Mary. So, but yeah, you'll have to stay tuned for the live stream that me and Steve are doing on his channel. The link is in the description below. It'll be comparing the Queen Mary to the SS Poseidon. That'll be really interesting. I'm actually excited to be part of that because I really want to... I want to know specifically... I have an idea in my head what was filmed on the ship and what wasn't, but I think Steve will be able to certainly pinpoint it with accuracy. The best Bernice says, what are your thoughts on Splash Mountain closing? Well, I want to say it was as far back as 2012. 2012, I was working for the company. And I was thinking, you know, Splash Mountain is definitely a classic Disney ride. I have so much respect for the history of the attraction and the people who put in their hard work to design and build it. But I felt that it was just outdated. I felt like, geez, they never take care of this ride anyway. The light bulbs are always out. The animatronics are always broken. You know, and then it's not a... What's happening on the ride is not something that people can really connect with in this modern era. Nobody in this modern era has really seen Song of the South, except the dedicated fans who want to see it. But it just always felt like a big disconnect. And I'm not normally one of those people that says, let's put in, you know, an IP to every single Disney attraction. Like, you know, like when I heard that they wanted to theme the Jungle Cruise after the new Jungle Cruise movie, I was like, no, don't do that. But in the case of Splash Mountain, I felt that it did need some kind of IP. I felt it was just a really outdated ride. And it really needed something new. So, the way I see it, you know, Tiana's Bayou Adventure, I really don't mind that it's themed after Tiana. I mean, after all, if I had to pick a favorite Disney princess, it would be Tiana, because she wanted to become a chef. I wanted to become a chef. You know, so I actually have a lot of connection with that character. But, that being said, I'm just glad that they're actually doing something about that ride. I'm glad they're actually changing it. And just doing something different. And the thing is if the ride ends up being better than what was already there, I will be a happy person. That's how I feel about anything. In fact, that's what Walt Disney used to think. Walt Disney didn't care about keeping certain things for eternity. You know, like, he never wanted Disneyland to be one of those places that never changes. Now, he didn't want to go back 20 years later and then see that everything he built was still there. He wanted to see it change and morph and add new things. He felt that if you rest on your laurels, you've lost all creativity. And so, you know, so it's funny because I often say that if Walt Disney were still alive today, we probably wouldn't have a lot of those classic rides that we have come to love, you know, because they probably would have been gone decades ago when he tried to replace them with something bigger and better, you know? So, yeah, so I think that, I really don't mind that they're changing it, as long as it's better than what was there before. If they give it a really cruddy budget, and they don't put it as much love and heart into it, then yeah, it's going to be terrible, and I'm going to be upset that they changed it to something that they didn't care about. But we'll see how well it does. But, you know, Disney's also been doing things lately where they don't put much care and love into what they're doing. So, we'll see. I guess the point is, I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, well, I want it to change because the ride is, you know, racist. I'm not going to sit here and say, well, I don't want it to change because I don't think it's racist. You know, I think for me, what matters most is like, what does everybody else want? If you take the collective amount of people and you say, do we need to change something? And if the greater amount of people say yes, or if there even is a sense that maybe something like Splash Mountain is just old and outdated and not cared for, yeah, I think that it needs a major change. And my whole thing is, if you replace it with something that ends up being better than what was there before, then I'm happy. That's just how I see things, you know. I'm not a very, like, political person in terms of, like, I take a side immediately, you know. I like to think that I see things from an outside perspective, you know, and just take it for what it's really worth, you know. But that's just who I am. Oh, there's a lot of comments since I... here we go. Ozzy says, where is Mr. Squeakers? Well, the name is Mr. Squeaky. But, yeah, Mr. Squeaky is inside the engine house right now. So, yeah. I have to take turns running the engines, because if I only run one engine all the time, then what's the point in having two? So, but yeah. But this little Porter engine, I think, will permanently be the official engine that pulls the log train. Because I don't want to use a large engine like Mr. Squeaky to pull such a small train. I'd rather have it pull the larger trains like the freight train or the passenger train. So... Eric says, do you think that they will open the workshop area they recently discovered? Discovered? Oh, you mean fake discovered. They knew it was there. They knew it was there. Yeah, what Eric's talking about is that there is an area, it's not a workshop, it's an area just underneath the forecastle deck of the Queen Mary where all the machinery for the capstan gears and the anchor chain stuff, all the machinery that runs all those things on the deck above is located in the deck below. And that was sealed off in the 1970s because they were going to include it as part of the tour of the ship, but the budget ran out, and so they were kind of like, well, what are we going to do with this? And they're like, oh, well, we do need, you know, larger bathrooms in that area, so they expanded out the bathrooms in the area and sealed off the rest of it. I say sealed off kind of very loosely because there technically was a door that still existed that led to that area, and eventually those bathrooms that they expanded were abandoned. And, you know, when I went to the Queen Mary, they were abandoned bathrooms. You couldn't go in them. And so, but yeah, a couple years back, they ran some kind of promotion where they were like, hey, we discovered an area of the ship we previously didn't know existed. And it's like, how do you not know? It's a whole deck of the ship. Like, how do you go from one deck and then down to, you know, 2 decks below that and go, wait, is there a missing deck? Like, they knew it was there, you know. There had to be a place where all the machinery for running the stuff on the forecastle deck was put. Like, it's not like the stuff on the forecastle deck was just magically operated with magic, you know. Like, there had to be machinery that ran it, and obviously the machinery had to be somewhere down there. So they knew, but it was just marketing, you know. But yeah, they said that when they discovered it at the time, they said that they were going to include it as part of the tour. But then they never did. They never got it ready for a tour. So I'm hoping that eventually that can be done. That would be really nice if it could be incorporated as part of a tour, because it would be the last intact area of, you know, capstan machinery and stuff like that. You know, all the other areas with capstan machinery was removed or modified heavily, so parts were taken out so that way they could fit other things. So, but that would be the last place where it was intact, and that'd be nice to have it as part of the tour. J. Rod says, are the dinos from the train coming back? You mean the model dinosaurs I had that I had on the train tracks? They're not part of the layout. I just put them there because I thought it was funny. But they're not part of the layout. They're not even the same scale as the layout. They're a little bit too big. Ocean Channel says, the only problem with the 1972 film is that there's a lot of slow talking scenes. I guess. I personally don't mind that. I think that movies today move way too quickly. They just rush through the story, rush through all the conversation, rush through all the scenes to get to the most exciting parts of a movie. And what you're left with is a movie that doesn't really, make you feel anything for the characters. That's why I liked the 1972 film over the 2006 film. The 2006 film, I could not connect with any of the characters. I was like, who are these people? Why should I care about them? But with the 1972 film, you start to really care. Especially, I forget her name, but the old fat lady in the first film, you learn that, she's not just some cowardly lady. She was once somebody who mattered. Somebody who, who's in the twilight years of her life. She's not ready to say goodbye to her life, but life is passing her by. And here she is in this, this life versus death situation. And she has the ability to save someone else's life. And she does. She saves their life and she dies. And you're just like, oh my God, that is unbelievable. It's wonderful. You don't get that at all from films anymore because they just rush through, the development of the characters. So you really don't feel any love for the characters in movies nowadays. You're just kind of like, oh, I partially like that person. They're like, oh, they got eaten. Oh, well, so, yeah. Moonzer says they did a Murder, She Wrote episode on the Queen Mary. That doesn't surprise me. Murder, She Wrote was around for a long time, and a lot of it was filmed in Southern California. Mateo says, I think that removing a bunch of animatronics from Splash Mountain is a way good decision since it was pretty much impossible to ensure the full show is up to the formerly high standards of the parks. And isn't that sad to think about, that there used to be such high standards in the park where every animatronic would remain working, or at least if one wasn't working, then it was just one. But now you go to the Disney parks and half the animatronics in every ride don't even work. Such low standards nowadays. Miles says, hi Alex, just subscribe. Did you ever see the 1960 movie The Last Voyage, filmed on the Ile de France before she was scrapped? I've heard of it and I've seen screenshots, but I have not personally seen the movie yet. The Ocean Channel says, whenever people say Disneyland, I get confused because there are so many. I grew up 20 meters away from... 20 meters or 20 miles? Away from Hong Kong Disneyland. Well, I will say that it's confusing, especially to Americans, because I've heard some people say Disneyland, and they mean Walt Disney World. But in the U.S., there is only one Disneyland, and it's Disneyland, California. And if any of us in the U.S. are referring to a Disneyland outside of the U.S., we will call it by its full name. So we will say Tokyo Disneyland, or Shanghai Disneyland, or Hong Kong Disneyland, or Disneyland Paris. We will never say Disneyland in reference to another country's Disneyland. So yeah, that's kind of like a little footnote. But yeah, here in the U.S. though, a Disney expert will refer, when they say Disneyland, they mean Disneyland, California. But then there are, like I said, there's people in the U.S. who don't know the difference between Disneyland and Disney World. So yeah. Hello, James. Eric says, Alex, we love you. When the ship is truly open again, you should do a meetup there, and we will all chip in to see your tour. I can't do that because if it's anything like Disneyland, they will permanently kick you out for doing, if they even think you're doing a tour of their area. So, yeah, I can't do that. But what I will do is I will film the ship and then produce a virtual tour on video, just like I did with my other virtual tour of the Queen Mary. That one's kind of getting old and outdated, so I really want to replace it. So I'm hoping that when the ship does reopen, I can go down there, stay on the ship maybe, and then, you know, just film the whole thing, document it 10 times better than I did last time. So Doc says, the old fat lady, I'm dying. I had an older patient who used to keep saying, I'm not dead yet. Y'all are too much. You know what's funny about the 2006 Poseidon movie, though? Was that, like, they literally had this one character that was only in the movie to die. And that was, well, I don't even remember his name, but he was this really obnoxious guy, and he died when he was crossing through the lobby of the ship, and then all of a sudden, like, one of the ship's engines, like, broke through the floor and then, like, came down and crashed on him. And I was like, dude, that guy was only in the movie to die. And he was like this really obnoxious guy, like, right before he's gonna cross, you know, the fire of death, you know, he's making fun of Kurt Russell, and I'm like, dude, these are the guys who are gonna get you safely across the bridge. Like, you don't start insulting the people before you get on the bridge. You do it after, you know? And so I was just like, this guy's gonna die, I know it. And then he did, he died, and I was like, that was, like, literally his only purpose in the movie. Jeffrey says, hi, Alex, liked your video about the buildings for the trains. Thanks. Yeah, soon, when I finish the engine house, that will get its own video. And it'll explain how I built the engine house and all that. It's looking really nice right now. But yeah. Carl says, Alex, if you could have enough money to do 3 things with the Queen Mary and nothing were impossible, unfeasible, or too expensive, what would you do, my dear fellow? Well, without being too specific about the first option, because I can't say too much, but I would say I would definitely make the Yarrow project happen. So that is something I would definitely do. I would do restoration of certain rooms on the ship, such as well, my favorite room, you know, the overflow lounge, the second class overflow lounge. Other areas such as the second class library, reading and writing rooms, possibly even the original second class cocktail bar on main deck. I would also restore the first class children's playroom, and then as well as the third class children's playroom and the Queen Mary Synagogue. So that's part of the second thing I would do, is I would just restore a bunch of areas of the ship. The third thing I would do is I would take the Queen Mary to be dry docked, and not only just to refurbish the outside of the ship and stuff like that, but I would also make it so implementations could be made to upgrade the exhibits of the ship to the various things that I've talked about in the past about how to upgrade the exhibits to make them more interactive and more appealing to modern audiences. So that's kind of what I would do with the Queen Mary. Yeah. Oh, Doc has to leave. Oh, see you later, Doc. Oh, see you later, Mateo. Ocean Channel says the drunk guy. Yeah, the drunk guy. St. Louis says, could you do more trolley videos sometime? They are my favorite Victorian transit. Sorry, I know you like ships the best. Well, it's not ship. Actually, I don't like ships the best. I like trains the best. So my channel focuses on the age of steam and steam travel. So the only public transit I'm interested in is steam-traveled public transit. Technically, the cable cars of San Francisco fit in with that because they are steam powered. Technically, you know, the original engine house for the entire San Francisco cable car system was powered by steam engines. But yeah, I don't know. It just really depends on if I can find more information on other cable car systems around the world or other steam powered public transit systems around the world that happen to be street trolleys and stuff. But yeah, it's hard to say. Well, I'm one of the people that remembers the People Movers, and I think they had a relaxing nature about them. I don't think it's so much that people want them to come back because they're exciting. I think it's more about people want them to come back because they're relaxing. When you go to Disneyland now, there's nowhere to sit. All the benches have been taken out. I mean, I remember working in Disneyland in 2009, and there were benches everywhere, and they were always under shaded trees. Well, over the course of the last decade, Disney has removed a lot of the biggest shade trees around the park, and then they removed all the benches in 2012. I remember that was the year, 2012, that they started removing all the benches. Now the park has very few benches, very few places to sit. They keep you on your feet all the time so you can go into the shops and buy stuff or buy food and sit down. But one of the things the park doesn't have enough of anymore is really long, relaxing rides. You can sit on It's a Small World if the music doesn't drive you insane. You can sit on Haunted Mansion for, 6 minutes, but, then the ride's over before you know it. Pirates of the Caribbean is a nice 9-minute long ride, but, so people really want rides that they can go on that are just relaxing, and the People Mover is one of those things, and Disneyland's really missing a lot of those relaxing rides. Disneyland Railroad's another good relaxing ride to go on, but yeah, it's not extremely efficient, and so therefore you're waiting in long lines sometimes just to get on a train. Of course, that could be helped if they would run 3 trains at a time instead of just 1 or 2. But yeah. Drew, I've heard of the Lizzie Borden house. Well, the only reason why I did the Browns Ferry Park video was because it's a story that's not told. You'll notice a pattern on my channel. I like to tell stories that people don't even talk about. I like to make videos about things that people don't make videos about. So, Lizzie Borden house is highly covered topic. Highly covered. And so therefore I don't really want to do it. Dreamrock says, do you plan on doing a bright side reaction video like how Historic Travels did? No. Firstly, I'd be terrible at reaction videos, so I don't react. I know my friend Eric, he's always like, oh, watch this thing I watched, or do this thing I did, and he wants to see my reaction, but I have such a blank face when I'm watching or doing something. It's because I have schizophrenia, so I literally have what's called the flat effect. So I don't have an expressive face. So I literally don't react to stuff. I'm not very good at it. But the other thing, too, is just that, I like to do stuff that's exciting, and reacting to another channel is not exciting to me. Eric says, what do you think will happen to the Chinese full-size replica of the Titanic? I think it'll become a very wonderful multi-leveled garden for nature to take back. In other words, nothing. I think it'll sit there and it will rot in the forest. Drew says 2036 will be the 100th anniversary of the Queen Mary. Yep, I look forward to that. I definitely want to be aboard the ship and when that happens. Brian says, I was going to say, what about Disneyland Railway or the monorail? What about it? Hopefully the tea is still warm. Yeah, it's still warm. I don't like the tea when it gets cold, but at the same time, the time flies by. Like, it's already been well over an hour that we've been on this live stream, and I didn't even realize it, It just flies so fast. Ocean Channel says, once China collapses, then nothing much will happen to the ship. Yeah, unfortunately, China has a habit of building theme parks that end up not ever opening. So there's a lot of abandoned theme parks in China. Brian says, when you were saying about relaxing rides. Oh yeah, I did mention Disneyland Railroad. I didn't mention the monorail. But that's because, you know, the monorail, you can't rely on it to be relaxing sometimes. Like, there was a time when you could ride the monorail in a full loop over and over and over again. And I used to do that, actually. But then, you never know. Sometimes during a certain season, they'll be like, okay, you can't ride over and over again. Everybody has to get off the monorail when you get to the next stop and stuff like that. So, that's one of those things where it's kind of like, you know, yeah, you can't rely on it for a relaxing ride because you're only on it for like, you know, less than 2 minutes, and then all of a sudden, you know, you got to get off. So, but yeah, in the past, you used to be able to ride it over and over again in multiple loops, just like the Disneyland Railroad. But they don't allow that anymore. Well, not all the time. Let's see. Ryan says, what Disney rides do you think should be updated besides Splash Mountain? The Matterhorn, most certainly. I love the Matterhorn. I love its history and its, you know, the fact that it's the first tubular steel coaster, all that. So I know its whole history, believe me. But it's one of those rides where I feel like, you know what, its uncomfortability and its, frankly, dangerousness, I think overrides the preservation aspect of it. I think it should be rebuilt entirely into a more comfortable ride system, more safe and comfortable ride system. Yeah. Because believe me, the ride that's there now is not in very good condition. They keep it running, but it's not in very good condition, and it will not last forever. It is surprising that it's even lasted this long with its current condition. Even, excuse me, even 10 years ago, it was in pretty rough shape, and they weren't sure how much longer it would be around. So it's definitely one of those rides that needs to be updated. They've done an amazing job with Big Thunder Mountain, to be honest. So I have nothing against Big Thunder Mountain. Buzz Lightyear Astro Blasters. Now that is a ride that I think is a really cool concept, and I do enjoy being on that ride, but they have not touched it since they built it in 2005. That ride could really use some brand new special effects. I'm not even kidding. So that is definitely a ride they gotta do something with. I have no problems with Space Mountain as it is currently. I know that Disney's had talks about replacing it with a newer, different style of system. It's only rumors, though. I can't... Well, I mean, I'm sure I could think of much more, but I just, you know, I feel like I'd be going down a long list, you know, so... Jay says, does Disneyland have the monorail still? Oh yeah, it's still in operation. Still runs every day. It was the first daily operating monorail system in the Western Hemisphere, believe it or not. Daniel says, hey Alex, what's your favorite narrow gauge railway? Technically, my very favorite narrow gauge railway is the Disneyland Railroad, but if I had to choose one that was non-Disney, I would probably say the Durango and Silverton. No. Actually, I love the Durango and Silverton, but I would say my second most favorite, besides Disneyland Railroad, in terms of narrow gauge railways, is actually the Wiscasset, Waterville, and Farmington Railroad, which is sort of the inspiration behind, I say sort of because it's not 100%, but sort of the inspiration behind my model railroad behind me. It's the same idea using, you know, the Forney style engines and stuff like that. So that would be my second favorite narrow gauge railway, and then it would be Durango and Silverton, and then after that would be probably Cumbres and Toltec. So yeah, and then I can't think of any others, but Carl says, what if the Titanic Honor and Glory team made a Queen Mary replica? They've talked about it in the past. They've said that they were interested in doing a Queen Mary replica virtual reality thing, which they think could be done sooner than a Titanic version because the Queen Mary is still around. So they can literally go there and take measurements and do all the research and stuff on the ship. But they said, you know, they're locked into the Titanic thing, and so before they ever even dream of doing a Queen Mary version, they're going to finish their Titanic version. So, but yeah, it'd be wonderful if they did that. Or if somebody else took on the task of recreating the Queen Mary accurately in virtual reality. You know, that'd be wonderful. Eric says, this has been a great tea time. Thanks. You're welcome, Eric. Ocean Channel says, imagine if they made the Titanic 2 and it arrives in the UK with a giant sticker on the side saying made in China. Oh god, that's funny. Alright, see you later, Steve. Dreamrock says, my favorite airlines are TWA, Pan Am, United, Southwest, Air Asia, American Airlines, Delta Airlines, and Emirates. Interesting. I am not much of a airplane fan or even airlines fan. I'm very interested in steam power. But what I will say is I have developed a love of the H4 Hercules, also known as the Spruce Goose. That's one airplane I definitely have an attachment to. Especially, I live so close to it, actually. So I've already been to the museum twice. And, you know, I'll probably make an annual pilgrimage to go see the H4 Hercules because it's really not far away. And it's a lovely museum. There's lots of other stuff to see there. They also have a space museum in the same area, so... they also have a water park as well. Some people keep telling me, you got to mention the water park. Yeah, they have an indoor water park, although I never visit water parks. But yeah. But yes, folks, don't forget, this Saturday, 1 p.m. Pacific time, I will be a guest on the Blue Ribbon Productions channel. We are doing a comparison of the Queen Mary and the SS Poseidon. So we're comparing the two ships. And that'll be a live stream this Saturday, 1 p.m. Pacific time on the Blue Ribbon Productions channel. The link is in the description below. Drew says, you should do a video about room B340. I actually want to do that, but I need to get more footage of the ship. I don't have enough of my own footage to actually make a video about the room, or there's so many specific things I want to get into about the Queen Mary that I really want to like make all these videos that no one else has made so far. But I need more footage of the ship. I can't make enough videos with the stuff I already have. And I've looked at other channels, and there's really there isn't much I can pull from other channels. And some channels, I've contacted them and said, hey, can I use your footage? And then they never get back to me. So, you know, so I need to go there and film the ship. I really do. Mike says, B340 is just a room. It's not haunted. Yeah, that's the video I want to make. The video I want to make is about how the room is just a room. And explain why it's not haunted. Because some people, if you just tell them it's not haunted, they'll be like, yeah, but look at all this history. This history says that it's like, but it's all made up. You know, it's all made up. It's not. But yeah, that's what I want to make a video about. Daniel says that he loves the Roaring Camp and Ghost Town and Calico Railroad at Knott's Berry Farm. Nice. Yeah, I know a lot about that one. Chris says, if I was extremely wealthy rich, I would have a modern-day clone copy of RMS Britannic 2 built in Belfast, Ireland. It would provide high-pay jobs in Ireland and the United Kingdom. Pretty neat. J. Rod says, that submarine by the Queen Mary needs to be donated. To be honest, it is not fit for reuse at all. It is so badly, it's so badly rotted and like, I don't know the other words, that it's like basically decomposing in the water. It's so bad that the outer hull is basically like tissue paper. It's got no rigidity left in it. If, you know, the city has expressed that they're worried about even trying to move it or taking it out of the water, either way, they're pretty sure parts of it will collapse when they do that. So the fact that it's floating in water is what's helping it keep its shape. But if they were to try to move it, it could sink. And if they tried to lift it out of the water, it could collapse while they're lifting it. So they've actually expressed concerns about that. It is in bad shape. I mean, you think it looks bad on the outside, it's bad. Underneath the water, it's even worse. So, and it's been overrun with all kinds of animals. Rats, you know, pigeons, seagulls, raccoons. There's a family of raccoons that lives in it. All kinds of stuff. It's not, it's what we say in the automobile industry. It's totaled. There's no bringing it back. So yeah, they're trying to decide like what would be the best option for getting rid of it, because, you know, if they rush into getting rid of it, it could actually pollute the environment, because it could break apart and it could release a bunch of junk into the environment. So Ocean Channel says, Titanic Honor and Glory has been in the gutter ever since Tom left. They will take as long to make one room as it took for my THG models to arrive. Jeff says, it's too bad the Spruce Goose left Long Beach. Yeah, I know. It kind of, you know, to be honest, it should have stayed in Long Beach. That's Disney's fault. Disney was literally the one that told the Aero Club, sell the Spruce Goose. Get rid of it. Disney told, so if you want to blame somebody, blame Disney. Disney told the Aero Club to get rid of the Spruce Goose. And thankfully, the Spruce Goose was going to be cut up and sent to a bunch of different museums. Thankfully, the, Del Smith and his son, I'm trying to remember his name. But Del Smith and his son purchased the Spruce Goose, all of it, at once, and transported it up to McMinnville. So, thankfully, the Spruce Goose is still in one piece. But yeah, Disney is the reason why it was sold off. And truth is, the Spruce Goose belongs in Long Beach. It was built in Long Beach, you know, and it had lived in Long Beach, you know, for 3 decades. Really? That's it? 47. Yeah. Yeah, just a little over 4 decades. So yeah, 45 years it lived in Long Beach after it was built there. So I mean, it really, you know, and it took its first flight in Long Beach Harbor. So it belongs in Long Beach, but, you know, Disney. Ocean Travel says, I went to the Roaring Camp Railway. That sounds familiar. I feel like I've heard of the Roaring Camp Railway. Carl says, ever since learning about RMS Queen Mary, Hail Mary has meant something completely different. Yep. NCC says, I remember touring the sub back in 2000. Yeah, I toured the sub probably around that time as well. Probably around 2000, maybe 2002. I remember it very little. I remember walking down the gangway, going down the steps. But not, I was still a kid at the time, so it's hard to remember. But yeah, I do remember going there. Ryan Hines says, Alex, what are your thoughts on the Winnie the Pooh horror movie? You know, I think I read a headline that said that they were making a horror movie on Winnie the Pooh. I thought it was a joke. I wasn't aware that it was a real thing. Matt says, what are your thoughts on Disney's cruise ship? Would it be worthwhile experience for adults? You mean the new one that they got? The big ugly one? So I will have to refer to other people's expertise. I was watching a channel, and I don't remember the channel off the top of my head, but they were talking about how the cruise ship that was purchased, I'm pretty sure it was Bright Sun Films. Not Brightside, Bright Sun Films. I believe was talking about the purchase of the cruise ship. That the cruise ship was originally designed for an adult Asian market. So perhaps it will be geared more towards adults, maybe. And so it might be better, but I don't know. I'm really not... I'm like the wrong person to ask about cruise ships because I don't really like cruise ships. I personally don't think I would enjoy my time on a cruise ship. The only reason why I want to be on the Queen Mary 2 is because everything Cunard offers... I mean, I know people will say, oh, but Alex, Cunard is really meant for, like, boomers, you know, or older folks than that. And to be honest, I'm totally a boomer at heart. So, I mean, it's totally my kind of thing. But, yeah, Disney cruises are definitely not in my enjoyability range. Jeff says, is the Queen Mary Hotel open yet? Not yet. They're saying sometime in March the hotel will open. Could be early March, could be late March. Frankly, I'm hoping for early March. So, I got some friends who are willing to do some filming on the ship for me, so I can start making more videos about the ship. We'll see. Eric, yeah. The Queen Mary was, you know, people like to say Normandy was advanced. And it's like, Normandy was advanced, but Queen Mary was advanced as well. Queen Mary was just advanced in a different way, you know. She wasn't all, you know, electric-driven motors the way that Normandy was, but she was a different kind of advanced. And that was getting the most efficiency out of the steam that was possible. Queen Mary used up every last ounce of steam in just the best ways to get the maximum power. And when you really think about it, when Queen Mary, excuse me, when the Queen Mary went into service in 1936, she was the most powerful machine in the whole world. That says something. That is just astounding. So yeah, Queen Mary was certainly advanced when it came to using the maximum amount of energy potential from the steam. It's just absolutely wonderful. Matt says, do you think cruise ships will eventually take over the premium liner-style ships, harkening back to history, like Cunard, Viking? They already have, when you think about it. I mean, look at Cunard's newest ship. You know, the Queen Anne. Sorry, it took me a moment to think about it. The Queen Anne. From the outside, she looks like a modern cruise ship. They completely did away with the other cruise ship styles, but even then the other cruise ships still look... that's a tangent. When you look at the Queen Anne from the outside, she looks like a cruise ship, not an ocean liner. And on the inside, she has not adopted any of the Art Deco style that the other ships have. Instead, she's gone for a very modern feel. So if you think about it, even Cunard has abandoned the classic... These cookies are drying out my throat. Even Cunard has abandoned the classic liner feel with their newest ship, Queen Anne. So I think my greatest hope is that next time the Queen Mary 2 goes in for an extensive refurbishment, my hope is that they do not strip all the interiors and redo them. Because that ship is beautiful. I mean, even when it was launched in 1998, put into service 2004, that is a beautiful ship. A beautiful ship. Was it launched in 2002, actually? Yeah, I think it was launched in 2002. I don't know what ship I was thinking of, but yeah, launched in 2002. Beautiful, beautiful ship, even 20 years later. So, I hope they do not restyle the Queen Mary 2. And I hope you all are hoping with me. Because it's a very real possibility. Cunard is known for redesigning the interiors of their ships as the years go by. There must be a lot of caffeine in that Irish breakfast tea because, boy, I am wired. That's a good question. Carl says, do you know if the Queen Mary or any Cunarder ever encountered the famous Royal Yacht Britannia, also known as John Brown's of Clydebank vessel? I personally do not know of any instances where a famous Cunard ship like Queen Mary, Queen Elizabeth, or anything like that has encountered the Royal Yacht Britannia. I'm sure it had to have happened, though. I mean, there were so many Cunard ships out there for all these decades that Royal Yacht Britannia was out there. So there had to have been an encounter. But I don't know of any personally. So, but I wonder if there's other people who are watching who could answer that. Eric says, is the city of Long Beach delaying the refinishing of the woodwork in the smoking room? I thought that was in the first stage of refurbishment. It's really hard to say because they were telling me personally, me and Steve Ablonsi, when we were on a call with them, when was that? June? That was one of the things they were going to start working on at that time. Was refurbishing the woodwork of the first class smoking room. Sorry, my brain is not working. Of the first class smoking room. But yeah, when I saw photos and video footage of the recent tours that have been taking place aboard the ship, and people have photographed and videoed the first class smoking room, it doesn't look like the woodwork has been touched. It looks just as faded as it did before. It should, the woodwork should really pop, with a nice clear varnish. So I don't think they've touched it, to be totally honest. But I wonder, in this case, what the definition of restoring or refurbishing means. Because they also said that in that room, they restored the dance floor. But the funny thing is that dance floor is not original to the ship. It was put there. I think that particular dance floor was installed in the 90s, the 1990s. So, you know, and when they said that they refurbished it, what they did was they basically like sanded it and gave it a new coat of wax and all that. Like, so is that really restoration? You know, so I don't know. It's hard to say, like, because I think sometimes their definition of things is a bit different. So, but yeah, you know, that they did tell us, you know, verbally that they were going to be doing restoration to the wood paneling of the first class smoking room. And yeah, we were looking forward to seeing it happen, and it doesn't look like it's been touched. So maybe they're saving it for later, or maybe they just meant that they were just gonna, you know, spray some, you know, some furniture polish on the walls and wipe it down. I don't know. I don't know. Matt says, agree. Queen Mary 2 was a game changer. How long do you think it will be in service after a refit? I'm definitely hoping they keep it true to a historic liner. After a refit. Well, the question is, will they refit it? That's the question I'm wondering, because if they do, then the next 2 years will be when they do it. Because, you know, the liner has gone 20 years without a major refit to all the decoration and style. 20 years is like, you know, the alarm clock time. So, you know, the next 2 years will decide that. If they decide to keep the liner looking the way she does currently, I will be happy. And then, but I suppose that, I don't know, it really depends, because the passengers are basically the deciding factor between how a ship looks and how long it lasts. You know, if a ship like the Queen Mary 2 stops getting passengers booking the ship, that tells Cunard automatically that there's something about the ship that people don't like. Maybe it's too old. Maybe the style is too old. So it's hard to say, because, you know, when I see ships like Queen Anne, it makes me incredibly depressed, because all the love and warmth and style of the ship is no longer there. It looks literally like, I told somebody the other day that the Queen Anne, like, the insides of the Queen Anne reminds me of the inside of a brand new refrigerator. Like, it's just, I'm like, why would I want to stay on that ship? It looks so cold and so just lacking in warmth and love. It's just, yeah, so, yeah, it looks like the inside of a refrigerator to me. A brand new, nice refrigerator. So, yeah, it's hard to say, because, you know, the audience will ultimately be the deciding factor. If people think that that Queen Mary 2 is starting to look too old, and I once heard somebody remark that they disliked the insides of the original Queen Mary and the Queen Mary 2 because it looks like one of those, you know, this is their words, like a seedy, gross local pub that they have in the UK that's smells like cigar smoke. That was this person's words, and they were from the UK, so I don't think they were like an American making fun of, you know, the UK people. But I don't see it that way. I don't see the original Queen Mary or the Queen Mary 2 as looking like those old pubs. I think that they are very beautiful Art Deco ships with beautiful wood paneling, you know. I mean, Queen Mary 2 might have fake wood paneling, but still, it still looks nice fake wood paneling. But, yeah, hard to say. Ocean Channel was one of the last passengers of Dream Cruises. Interesting. Oh, it was launched in 2003. Okay. Wow, so they were actually able to fit it out in a year? Usually, like, these days, the fitting out of a ship, like, takes 2 or 3 years. That's interesting. So, yeah, they were able to fit it out in a year. Matt says, do you think the Titanic communities and increased interest in historical ships, thanks to YouTube channels like yours, and games like Titanic Honor and Glory, will boost demand for liner-type ships? By the way, really like your business acumen, Alex. Shines through all your answers. Thank you so much. I think so, actually. I do think that all the attention that ocean liners have been getting, thanks to YouTube channels and to, you know, games like Titanic Honor and Glory, and then the upcoming Lusitania game, things like that will definitely, if not renew interest, then at least continue the interest that was already started. But I think the ocean liner community is growing. I certainly think, I mean, I have seen the Queen Mary fan community grow since I started making videos. I don't want to take all the credit. There's certainly been other channels who started covering the Queen Mary as well. But that's the good news, is that there's a lot of people covering the Queen Mary now. And that's exactly what I was hoping for when I started doing Queen Mary videos in 2021. Was at the time, almost nobody was really talking about the Queen Mary. If they did, they just kind of rehashed the history of the ship a little bit. But, you know, now the Queen Mary is definitely on a lot of people's minds. And I think that there have certainly been people on my channel who've told me that they were never a fan of ships until I started making videos about Queen Mary. And then they were like, you know, even today, I got a comment today where somebody said, you know, I wasn't a fan of Queen Mary, I was a fan of other ships, but you have made the Queen Mary my third favorite. And so that's really, you know, that's good. That's, you know, taking the Queen Mary from off of everybody's list and putting it onto their list is a huge plus. So that's why I'm so positive about the future of the Queen Mary in a way that not other people are, is because I've actually been very carefully taking the temperature of the public to see what are they thinking of Queen Mary? How do they think of the Queen Mary? And then I go and I make a video to try to turn that around. And I think it does help in its own little way. And so overall, the ocean liner community, I think it's growing and it's helping people become more interested in liners. So I wouldn't be too surprised if maybe another company decides, hey, let's build a liner, you know, and try to market off of this interest with ocean liners that people have. That'd be very nice. And even the Queen Mary 2, like I said, I would be concerned about the Queen Mary 2's longevity if the passenger bookings were dropping, but they're not. If anything, they're increasing. It seems that more people want to book a voyage on Queen Mary 2, and a lot of them are doing it because it's the last ocean liner. So, you know, who knows? Maybe that'll lead Cunard to want to build another ocean liner, or maybe it'll lead another, you know, liner company that's still around, like the, you know, the, trying to think of another ocean liner company that's still around. There's a, is it, you know, I'm not gonna make myself look stupid. I don't know which other companies are still out there, but still, I know there are some ocean liner companies that are cruise ship companies now. Maybe they'll decide to make an ocean liner, so we'll see. Air Arrow says, did you know the Queen Mary appeared in the Talented Mr. Ripley set in 1950s? No, but I mean, I know the Queen Mary was filmed a lot, both in her sailing career and in her time in Long Beach. So, honestly, when people tell me, oh, she was filmed in this movie and that movie, it no longer surprises me because she's been filmed so much. She's, I think, the most filmed ship in history. Eric says, drives me crazy when I hear people say that nice wood looks old. They seem to prefer glass, chrome, and white drywall. I think people have lost good taste. You know, I think so too. I mean, there are places for that style though. You know, like a lot of that, the idea of that sterile look comes from, you know, the era of the mid-century look and the Googie style that happened in Southern California. You know, that space age look, especially with, you know, the QE2 was literally the first Cunarder to look like that. So, you know, but there is a time and a place for every architectural style. But the fact that more and more places are switching to these very cold, white, sterile looking interiors is really bothering me. You know, I would like to see more warm colors used, more natural wood and stuff like that used a lot in decoration. When you do see people use wood in architecture, they usually use a cheap wood like pine, and then they, you know, they stain the wood, but it's pine. It's not like a, you know, if people were using more of the finer woods like quilted maple or which is, by the way, my favorite wood, quilted maple, you know, or tiger oak, or you know, types of ebony, you know, and using those fine woods as veneers, you know, there would be a lot of beautiful looking places nowadays. But when you do see modern architecture use wood, they use a very cheap wood, and it looks cheap, you know. So no wonder, it's really no wonder why there's so many people nowadays who can't appreciate wood paneling, because through the 1970s through to today, they've used really cheap woods and it doesn't look the same. It looks very, just not good. And so yeah, so nowadays, like, people can't appreciate the beauty of certain woods because they've never seen beautiful woods. So Derek, I know Queen Anne's still under construction, but they've released a lot of concept art, and if it looks anything like the concept art, it will look like the interior of a really expensive refrigerator. Chris, I really don't know. Honestly, I really don't know. Arrow says, did you know that Disneyland Hong Kong uses diesel engines disguised as steam trains? Yes. We call those steam outline. So they actually have a name. Steam outline. Because, yeah, they are designed to look like steam engines, but they're actually diesel. I don't like the way they look, by the way. They look like plastic. So I don't like them. Matt says, here's something I wonder. Would there be a market for another line who directly competes with Cunard? In terms of ocean liners? See, now we're getting into the really far future. Because, yeah, maybe I could see them building another... I could see Cunard building another ocean liner in the next 10 years. Maybe. Like, maybe. But now getting into, like, oh, are they going to have a competitor? That's like, okay, now we're talking like 50 years in the future, which I definitely cannot see happening. I don't know that they will have a competitor, because I think air travel will always be the dominant travel from now on. But, you know, yeah. Holland America, thank you, Ocean Channel. That's what I was going to say, like, Holland America, but I was like, I don't know. Yeah, Holland America line. Ocean Channel says, Carnival Cruise Line's livery looked nice on ocean liners, mostly their first ship. I don't recall seeing that, but I'll take your word for it. All right. The Ocean Channel says, if I were to start a company, it would be an ocean liner company that mixes modern cruise ships with ocean liners of the past. Yeah, I mean, I think that there would be a market for ocean liners, especially if you made them look more classic looking while still trying to retain the things that people want out of a cruise ship. Air Arrow says, did you know the Normandy appeared in the Disneyland Indiana Jones attraction pre-show? Did it? I'm trying to think of the pre-show. It's been a long time since I've seen it. Yeah, I don't recall. Alrighty. Yeah, so in terms of the model railroad that I have here, you know that the second layer of plaster cloth has been added to the mountain. So next I will need to apply, I will basically paint a layer of soft plaster onto the mountain and onto the river to plug up all the little holes, you know, that the plaster cloth makes. And then after that's done with the mountain, I can start applying, I can start sculpting rockwork and applying pre-cast rockwork onto it. Once that is applied, I can paint the whole thing, so the thing will finally have color to it. Once it's painted, then I can start decorating it with landscape stuff and all that. So, yeah, it's coming along. I'm trying as hard as I can to get the model railroad to a completion stage where there's more color to it, because it's all just white from all the plaster and the foam. So I want to try to get more color onto the whole thing. Cause I think I was telling people, because somebody said, you know, oh wow, your model railroad has really taken shape over the course of the winter. And I said, yeah, it's because I just got really tired of looking at it all flat, no buildings, you know. I really, you know, I've had it for such a long time. I just want to see it progress now, you know. I'm tired of looking at all the white, you know. So more stuff will come to it. Yeah. So, and all that will be documented on the channel. I'm hoping that this week there will be a video, maybe Friday, but I don't know about Friday, but maybe Saturday. I will have a video about the history of the steam locomotive type called Forney, which is my favorite. The other engine, Mr. Squeaky, that I call him, is a Forney type locomotive, my favorite type of engine. So I'm hoping to have a video about the history of the Forney type engines and what they're used for and all that on the channel, maybe Saturday. We'll see how that goes. I'm in the middle of writing the script for it. So we'll see. We'll see. Arrow. Yeah, I know you mean the film reel. I know. I'm just thinking, it's been a long time since I've seen the whole reel. Because I don't know if you know, but ever since the park reopened after the pandemic, that film reel has been cut down to just the safety spiel. So it's been a long time since I've seen the whole reel, and I don't recall seeing Normandy on there. Derek says, everyone says RMS Queen Mary to be scrapped soon. What? All everyone say RMS Queen Mary to be scrapped it soon. Well, don't worry, Derek. Don't listen to them. Those are, let me tell you guys, everybody listening, the people who are like, oh, the Queen Mary's going to be scrapped, oh, they're going to get rid of it. These, I hate to say it, are just really sad, you know, grumpy, pessimistic people who, for the most part, there are some of them who are like, oh, well, you know, nobody loves the Queen Mary more than me, but, you know, it's going to be scrapped. And I'm like, you know what? No. These are people who have some kind of thing they hate about the RMS Queen Mary, and so they think that the more they say, oh, it'll be scrapped, they're going to get rid of it, the more true it'll be, and it's not. The city of Long Beach has already made the decision. They've literally voted on the decision that they are going to preserve the ship for 100 years more of life. So that means major things are going to happen to the ship that have already been approved to happen, to preserve the ship so that way she'll last 100 years. And so the other thing too is they've also already added more money into the restoration of the ship. Everybody knows cities are really stingy with money. You know, they don't want to, they're not going to fix a pothole in the street when they could, you know, I don't know, put that towards a campaign or something for a new mayor. So when a city does invest significant millions of dollars in a project, it means that they're sticking with it because they are so afraid of spending money. So they have already done that. They've already dedicated lots of money to the ship. They're not about to scrap it, spend $190 million to scrap the ship, only to never see the exorbitant amounts of money the ship brings back to the community. Let's remember, the Queen Mary earns $205 million in tourism revenue to the county of Los Angeles, $95 million in tourism revenue to the city of Long Beach, $3 million of tax revenue yearly to the city of Long Beach, and employs over 1,500 people, both directly and indirectly. And the ship also has become a symbol of the city of Long Beach, to the point where if they do scrap the ship, it will be seen as a huge blunder and blight on the face of Long Beach. If they do not take care of that ship, the world will look at the city of Long Beach as a bucket of trash. So they have a lot of things going for them that make them want to preserve and keep the Queen Mary. There's no way they're going to get rid of it. There's no way. It is a cash cow. I know there's so many people out there that are like, oh, Alex, it's a money pit. You know, maybe it costs so much money that you could call it a money pit. But a true money pit is something where you keep putting money into it and it doesn't give you anything back. The Queen Mary does not fit that definition. In fact, she gives so much money to the local community and receives almost none of it back in return. That's the opposite of a money pit. That's more like the county of Los Angeles being the money pit and the Queen Mary being the cash cow that is being milked for all it's worth. That is the true definition of what's going on here. That is why neither the city of Long Beach nor the county of Los Angeles will allow anything permanently bad to happen to the ship in terms of getting scrapped or sunk. So do not listen to those naysayers. They are just really sad people who've got nothing but negative things to say in their life. And if the Queen Mary was taken care of, they would be extremely upset because they're just tired of seeing things go the opposite of how they predict. I've had people that told me years ago, when I made my first Queen Mary video called Let's Save the Queen Mary, there were people that are like, Alex, you don't know anything about this. They're not going to save the Queen Mary. I said, you know, I may not be any kind of an expert on anything, but I know when I see something happening that it's going to happen a certain way. You know, it doesn't take a genius. So I'm like, I knew back then they're going to keep the ship because it would be economically irresponsible to get rid of it. And lo and behold, I was right. The whole city council voted unanimously to take care of the ship and preserve it for 100 more years. You know, and they've already started funding a lot of money into it. And the ship has been earning that money, even though it's been closed. It earned $1 million in the last fiscal year just out of, you know, allowing people to film on it. And that $1 million has been put into the city, and then the city gave that money back to do the recent round of refurbishments to the ship. $1 million is not a lot, I know, but that's on top of what was already invested in the last year. So it's just extra things, but yeah. So don't worry, people. Don't listen to the naysayers. They are obviously people who just have not looked into the thing very well. I mean, these are still the same people that are like, oh, did you know it's going to capsize? And I'm like, if you actually read the reports like I have, all the engineering reports dating back to 1992 like I have, there is nothing in there that indicates that it will happen. The engineer who said those words was saying if nothing was to be done, then in the next 2 years, the ship would be at risk of flooding and capsizing. But we know that that's not going to happen because now things have been done. So now that course of the future is no longer going that way. It's going in the favor of the ship. So, yeah, that's just my thing about the people who are such naysayers. Those people that are like, oh, the ship is going to be scrapped and sunk. It's just like, those people. All right, so yeah. Carl says, absolutely, the Queen of the Seas won't be scrapped. Heck, her third whistle is on board the Queen Mary 2, still sailing the seas and asserting the old lady's voice on the Atlantic. That is something I never thought about, yeah. The Queen Mary's voice is still being heard on the Atlantic to this day. That's crazy. Daniel says, sorry if this has been covered, but what are your thoughts on the future of the United States? Is she too far gone at this point? So, it's not that she's too far gone in the sense that she's going to sink or anything, but she is too far gone in the sense that she is such an empty shell and a very specific shape of shell that it would be really difficult to do anything with the SS United States. Because she's so blank, you would have to start from scratch to install things on her. But, like I said, she's a very specific shape, which makes installing new things on her like boxing. What is the best example of that? It's just like, it's telling someone, okay, use your imagination and go crazy and design something, but you can't use your imagination because you have very specific things to adhere to. So it's one of those things where it's like the cost of trying to do something with the SS United States would be so cost prohibitive and expensive. It would be very unlikely if anything was to happen with the SS United States. But that being said, you never know. You know, there's people in this world with lots of money, and if you spend enough money, you can get the SS United States into maybe the museum quality, maybe restore her as a small cruise ship, you know, but that's with enough money. So it really depends. It seems that the organization that is in charge of the ship, they are hopeful about the future. And I think at least being hopeful is part of the way there, you know. If you believe in your cause enough, I think you can get other people to believe in it. And I think that's certainly been true for the Queen Mary, you know. So who knows? Maybe there will be a chance for the SS United States in the future. But I will say it will definitely be a big hurdle to overcome. All right. Happy New Year, Aaron Estrada. All right, you guys, thank you so much for joining me. I'm going to end the live stream now. Got to figure out something for dinner. But yeah, so don't forget, the link is in the description below for the live stream I'm doing with Steve on Saturday about comparing the Queen Mary to the SS Poseidon. Otherwise, in the next couple days or so, look forward to a history of the Forney-style steam locomotives. And then next tea time, or possibly train layout work live stream will be on Sunday. Yeah, that's all I got for now, I think. Yeah, so anyway, thank you guys for watching, and I will see you all next time. Bye-bye.